Welcome to a new version of Professional StarCraft 2, with our first grand finalist, the rank 1 Terran player in the world in the red. We have Clem, facing off against the former world champion Zerg in the blue. We have Reynor in a best of 5 Terran versus Zerg grand finals to the new Patches Patch tournament, which might sound redundant, but instead is the name of the new community balance patch that many people starting to think makes the game at least a little bit better. So before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,893 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As both players opening things up economically, the 12-worker start has returned. And that is the least of the relatively dramatic changes here in PatchesSC Patch Mod. Both the most amusing and potentially confusing of names, but spearheaded and created by PatchesSC, named after the Carbot Marine, who, well, if you haven't seen the series yet, I'll wait. You should go watch it all. And welcome back. Did you cry as much as I did? Unironically, really. But speaking of tiers, the 400 Mineral Command Center has returned. Among a whole slew of other... In fact, you can get the... If you want to follow along, there will be a quiz at the end. Voluntary, but, you know. A whole slew of changes. From the larva on each base and each level of base, to the 400 Mineral Command Center, to a whole... cornucopia of mid to late game upgrades, though I think the basics, honestly, as we've seen from Clem and beyond, especially for Terran, but across the board, you can pretty much use the same strategies you were using 2-3 months ago on the 12-worker patch, and you will find some success, though there are some changes that make specific parts of those strategies maybe a little bit better, a little bit worse. We've seen plenty of players just kind of adapting the strategies that they are quite comfortable with. But also players like Reynor really using a lot of the new changes, including, for Zerg, a new unit. The Swarm Queen. You can upgrade / promote / force a queen to become a Swarm Queen. One-way trip. All right, there's no going back. But for 50 minerals, after you get an Evo Chamber, the Swarm Queen becomes a very strong anti-ground unit at the cost of no longer being able to inject and having very weak anti-air attack compared to, we're going to call it the OG Queen or the basic Queen, depending on how she's acting. So, and as for Terran, well, 3 command centers on the way. Mules can mine gas. All right, the change that broke the Legacy of the Void beta so hard it only lasted like a week is here in the Patches mod. You're like, well, isn't it completely broken? One, I have not seen a single Terran try to use it. It's just a mule that mines gas over the top, just like SCVs. And it only mines about 1.5 SCVs worth, compared to a mule on minerals, which is over 2.5. A Swarm Queen being produced to deal with the Reaper Helling, but he runs... This is private property! Brenda, what's wrong with you? I'm better than ever! Okay. I don't... Well... The Swarm Queen finishes just a little bit late, and 5 drones will pay the ultimate price. A second Swarm Queen produced, and... they have their own set of upgrades as well, but they require a layer later on, so... The Swarm Queens are great, but they're not great while they're stuck in the cocoon watching Hellions run. I assume they can see out of them, just for extra shame. So, Clem taking advantage of that obvious opportunity and getting a little bit of damage done. And now there's a Banshee on the way across. How many OG Queens? 4 of them. Cloak is in production. There's nothing different about the cloak. It's just we decided to use a different icon for it because it's always been a little weird that Ghost Cloak and Banshee Cloak have exactly the same icon. This is not true for anything else in the game. So I think Ghost Cloak has the icon you might expect. But Clem taking us to McDonald's, which means we may get to see the buffet menu of Factory Tech Lab upgrades, of which there is quite a list. Mostly things that make certain strategies, if you want to go down that road, significantly better in the long run. But, well, we'll see. The Hellions, the Zerglings actually get the wraparound on one. Shuts the door in their face. Is a little bit mean, but understandable. Meanwhile, the Banshees, Sport Crow just a little bit out of position, so the Queen's struggling with it. Swarm Queen not even going to be able to get close. She has half the anti-air range and less damage than the basic Queens. Has 6 more drones dead. Reynor had only 54 drones, which is certainly not an auspicious start against someone who's headed towards Battle Mech. The Cyclone is better and worse. So this is Patches Mod 3.0, which, according to Patches himself, the last big full balance pass. But it wouldn't... No patch cycle in StarCraft 2 would be complete without reworking the Cyclone a bit. Which is why the Cyclone has gotten a bit of a rework. It has a speed upgrade called Hurricane Engines. Magfield Accelerator only does bonus damage to armored. And it builds a little bit faster. So it's generally better against things it's supposed to counter. Like Roaches, Swarm Queens, Ultras. And worse against things in general. Before the Magfield Accelerator upgrade did just flat damage. Just more damage. Against everything. So the speed upgrade, though, brings it very close to the Hellion speed, which makes it hard to track down. And Reynor is going for Roaches with speed themselves, but having such a mediocre economy to start is clearly not helpful. The Cyclones will lock on. The Queens taking heavy fire from the Frenchmen with a revolutionary new way to assassinate them. But they'll survive for now. The Monarchy, dealing with at least this first foray. It's gonna be Battle Mech out of Clem. And he's getting more Banshees as well. Will he get Shockwave missiles? Oh. Okay, so... in a Raven... So pretty much every unit he's building right now has gotten some changes. And the Raven can now be built without a tech lab. And it has a repair drone ability, which does exactly what it sounds like. It has a limited life and limited amount of repair, but you could repair units for free. Which is, from playing some Terran myself, I'm 1/3 Terran myself. I mean, here on the official Patches Mod ladder, which exists on Vespine.gg, which will more on that later. I just wanted to get it out there in the first game. Been playing some games, and definitely feels better to have that Raven, but... Well, the Roaches target firing the Cyclones, the Hellions just body blocking. There is a healing shrine here, which it seems Clem is very well aware of, which is even cheaper than a repair drone or an SCV. 3 Banshees, 3 more factories, Hurricane Engines on the way for those Cyclones. And Reynor has locked down 4 bases. He's getting infestors. The Roaches building up. And the Banshees are still a threat. There's not that much anti-air. It's only the Queens at this point and Spore Crawlers, which is not exactly the comprehensive defense he might hope for. Meanwhile, the Raven is on the way. And just the Raven now has a Phantom attack, where it will stand a certain, like 6 or 7 range away if you attack move. Every spellcaster has that in some variety. Vipers, Disruptors, Ravens, all have a Phantom auto attack. So now you don't have to worry as much about your units just flying directly to their death. I think there's plenty of ways for skill expression that isn't babysitting your suicidal units, but we'll see. The Queens! Brenda, no! Why are you so thick? What's going on? There's the repair drone. It does cost 50 energy to be taken out. Oh, it has like no HP. Wait, whoa. What? My fucking Queens are stuck. Pardon my Italian. Where? Behind minerals sucks for you. Clem with a Stukov face. Let me try to get him out, kiddo. How long? Like 5 seconds. Sure, good luck. Okay, so the queens are stuck. Did he morph a swarm queen? Well, wait, what is... How does this happen? Okay, wait. Help me, Step Reynor! How did that happen? If he morphed a swarm queen behind, did it actually physically... They're too thick. Okay, so they're just a little bit too large because the swarm queens are only marginally larger, which means they're getting in the way. There are too many cooks. And Reynor! Let's go to the Reynor camp. He's trying... He got in, but they can't get out. Oh, help me, Step Clem. I'm stuck. And now, I mean... Oh... So clearly some potential bug fixes in our future for the bugs here. Sucks for you. But then Clem gives him a few Okay, wait. How does he do it? How does he get him out? XD, XD, XD. What? Oh, hold position on the small queen, I think is what he used. And then the other ones were finally able to slip out. Got it. And very sporting of Clem, who's in a pretty good position in this game, but he risks giving up that position by doing that. Especially now that Reynor has all these swarm queens to bear. The Banshees are here. A Fungal holding down the Cyclones. A Roach Ravager. Still good. He doesn't have the Rapid Expulsion. There it is. The Speed Corrosive Bile. So the Rapid Expulsion upgrade, you see, on the Roach one, is it speeds up the Corrosive Bile land time by about twice as fast. Maybe it's not quite that much, but it's a lot faster. You can definitely notice. It feels really good. I mean, projectile vomiting has never felt so good, but... Meanwhile, also, of course, catalyzed morphogenesis, which reduces Baneling morph by 50%. And increases their life regen by 500%. Essentially, the point of it being, the Baneling will live until it dies. So they'll get busy living, or they'll get busy dying. But it's a little bit of a buff to Banelings against splash damage, generally. Splash damage that doesn't outright kill them. So not against Widow Mines, but against things like Storm and Hellions, to an extent. 500% life regen is still not that fast, but it's at least noticeable. Unlike basic life regen, which is like less than 1 a second. You do not regen faster on creep. Contrary to what might be popular belief. I don't think it's that popular, but it's just the speed upgrade for more certain units more than others. But the Hellclone split off. Hurricane Engine's done. Given those Cyclones. Oh, but Cyclone's a pretty good counter to Cyclones. Infernal Pre-Igniter. Very much apparent as the Zerglings just combusting. Rapid Expulsion is done. He knocks down the Banshee with it. Over to the right side, the Queens. Not even Swarm Queens. Grabs a few more on the left side. Roaches and Ravagers, oh my. And, well, Queen targeted. Clem. Ugh. The Hellbats in the midst, just burninating through the mineral line. He gets 15 drones. Oh no, the Zerganity. And Reynor's down to 68. He's got a hive done. Does he have bifurcated incubation? AKA roaches being 1 supply. Does he need it? He's so broke at this point. Alright, Clem has 4 bases. A 5th one on the way. There it is. Bifurcated incubation. Reduces the supply cost of roaches to 1. Another upgrade slash change that was considered so broken it never even made it to the real game. If you're like, I remember when roaches were 1 supply. That was only the beta of StarCraft 2, which was before I even started playing. Which was day 1 of Wings of Liberty. Over 16 years ago. Anyways, well, the Roach Ravager fighting the siege tanks, but The corrosive bow, the quick corrosive bow combined with this angle is just... And he's building infested Terrans! And he's missing fungals on the Banshee. Stand still. Come on down. Infested Terran. So, the... it doesn't show up in the production tab, oddly. But the Infestor is now an infested carrier. For the cost of 20 minerals, not energy, you can build up to 4 infested Terrans on the Infestor. They're very good against air. They're okay against ground. They have returned, but in a new form, which is kind of nice in some ways because you don't have to use your energy on them, but you have less of them than you could back in the day. And they do cost 20 minerals apiece, a little bit less than a Zergling. And they do, instead of timing out, timed units now just lose life over time, which is actually such a genius change because that makes doing damage to them more meaningful. So there's a lot more back and forth. Because if your life is tied to losing a certain amount a second, and you take half your HP and damage, well, you know, that which doesn't kill you leaves you permanently crippled and severely reduces your life expectancy. But make sure to like and subscribe for existential dread. Meanwhile, the Hell Clones unburrows the Infestors. Reynor on the ropes. Both sides struggling. Of Reynor's base, not both sides players. Clem's doing very well. Reynor has all these fancy upgrades. He has bifurcated incubation, which means he has more supply for everything else but roaches. But right now, he doesn't have the money to spend it. That Baneling speed morph helping bring some more reinforcements. He catches the units to the north. Adrenal Glands is done, and just Cyclones will be ripped to shreds, I say. He could... 6 siege tanks at a time, and a fusion core is on the way. Oh, and he grabs a couple of the clones. This, again, the siege tanks, but before they could even shoot now. The corrosive bow easily takes it out. The Roach Ravager overwhelming the field, but the Liberators are here. That's not going to be a stop for the Roach Ravager. He's got the shots. And, oh, missed the angle. That's going to cost him. The infested Terrans still have yet to be spewed out. He's got kind of a weird amount. They don't show up anywhere besides the fact you can see them inside of the infested carrier there. Reynor's still at 75 drones. Clem is at 200 supply, but he doesn't have much in the bank. He's working on 3-3. Reynor actually finished +3 ranged attack. This angle obviously rough for the Roach Ravager. Oh, siege tanks can attack while moving, though they have slightly reduced attack speed. But unsiege tanks, well, siege tanks, maybe siege tanks could attack while moving, but they can't move, so bit of a dilemma. A scan, probably looking for a greater spire, as Broodlords are maybe the one thing here. Oh, this is awkward. The Infestors just, oh no, a little too close. Infested Terran spewed out, eating some of the tank shots. Grabs one of the tanks. The other is target firing. The Infestor doesn't get it. The tank's helping out a lot. And tanks are a very good counter to this composition. Takes it out. Reynor moving forward. Knocks out a few more tanks. The Zerglings sprinting through. Gets into the natural. The Ravagers. Viking hits the deck. But the production is so dramatic for Clem. He's got so much waiting to be delivered. Like 30 supply in production right now. Reynor's economy is barely keeping up. He's spending Banelings. He's losing Ravagers. Clem has not lost a base, which means the income has only drawn a little bit closer to even, but still is heavily in favor of the Frenchman. Those Cyclones keeping up, but Reynor just took too many hits early. And honestly, he put some real work into dragging it back. But Clem locking it down, and he got the economy. He's getting advanced ballistics for the Liberators. The only new upgrade. We didn't get the Crucio Dampener. The are there any more Cyclone upgrades? No. Smart Servos wasn't... Oh, Smart Servos was researched, but that's still... Yeah. It's just too costly. Clem with a decisive victory. And he ends up taking game number 1. Reynor, just a tough map for Zerg. The Swarm Queen sleeping on the job. And the Battle Mech finding a lot of strength. As Clem off to the lead. Going into Sanctuary. Now, I did mention the ladder. And I know it's scary. It's scary. I know it's a scary idea. But you can now play an actual ladder. Now, if you've ever played Counter-Strike or Brood War before, I don't know if they restarted these. You'll know that third-party ladder, or Warcraft 3. So, on Vespene.gg is the name. All it takes is a Battle.net account to connect. And you can play on the ladder. Just queue up. Now, there's not a ton of people. All right. That's why we're asking you. Like, isn't everyone going to be better than me? With that sort of thought process, it's the variety. There never will be. But it is a curated ladder. That means no smurfs. That means you could actually pick maps you like. And in fact, at my recommendation, there's an anti-mirror match queue. Just in case you absolutely hate mirror matches, you can queue up as a second race that avoids mirror matches if possible. So, I mean, do I think that's necessarily good in the long run? Well, for viewership, for variety, and remember, you know what it's about. It's the variety that matters. Variety is the spice of life, and the spice must flow. But Vespene.gg is where you can head. Made by StarCraft 2 players. For StarCraft 2 players. There's also a prize for the ladder season, which is really cool as well. Though, pretty much there to bait players like this into hopefully playing on it more regularly. Oh, yeah. A solid game, but honestly, if there was a map and a style that was going to be successful for Clem, the Battle Mech on Rorschach it's a tough sell. It's very difficult for Zerg to get aggressive, especially if they take any economic hits, just because the map, it's so easy to lock down 3 bases for Terran on that map. It's pretty well accepted at that stage. And Clem using it well. Not that he didn't execute it near perfectly. And in fact, he gave Reynor the time to get his queens unstuck. Which is sporting and also definitely hilarious. But sucks to be you. And indeed it did. But we'll see what Reynor has in store for us. Two command centers on the way. Clem clearly blocking a potential third. The Queen bounced back. The drone trying to hide from the SCV. The Reaper, now, okay. Things getting a little complicated here. Trying to heal as much as possible. Gonna get a few points. And now the Queen is in the way of the hatch. Clem actually helps out with that. But now the drone trying to dodge the Queen. Bitch. Brenda! Queen walks away. Perfect timing to slip the hatchery between the Reaper and the Queen itself. And Reynor does get a third. Still quite a troublesome process, but Clem going to fall back to yield 3-2-1-1. 3 command centers, 2 barracks, 1 factory. And I'm going to go ahead and assume there's going to be a starport. Oncologist Clem takes out another. 2 Hellions on the way. So Clem really trying to sell this as not Medivacs early. We'll see if Reynor's buying what he's selling. The 2 Hellions might buy him a little bit more space to, well, let Reynor think that he has more room to drone. Because against Hellion Banshee, you want to build queens and drones. Against Marines, you have to cut drones earlier in order to make Zerglings. That is, unless the Swarm. Swarm Queens are a potential stopgap. Well, a literal kinetic stopgap, as we saw last game as well. And the Swarm Queens are one of their main strengths, I've found, is this exact timing. Right when you're usually forced to spend a lot of your larva on Zerglings, but instead you can spend that, you're still spending minerals, all right? And you're kind of denying yourself the ability to have those inject queens later. But it makes up for, I'd say, one Swarm Queen. It's impossible to put a price on it, though it is 200 minerals in total, but it's impossible to put a price. But if I had to, I'd say worth about 8 to 10 Zerglings on the ground against this sort of strategy. Which would make sense, because 200 minerals is 8 Zerglings. But the very key point is your larva is not used for, oh my god, Zerglings. Or at least it doesn't have to be used for Zerglings as more Swarm Queens on the way, is realizing, wow, it's a Hellbat push. Hellbat's got a little bit of a buff, a bit more move speed, but they're not biological anymore. I don't know why they ever were. That was kind of confusing. That Hellions. But they now have more HP. They move a little bit faster, but they cannot be healed by medevacs. So you can jam 4 of them into a medevac for the first time in 10 years. Maybe 13. But, cancels the 4th base, but the Swarm Queen's easily able to deal with the rest. The Zergling counter, he gets in! Oh no, it's a disaster for Clem! He's gonna take terrible damage. Well, terrible, terrible damage. I'm saying it. Alright, I'm going all the way. I thought that the Marines would hold, but they did not. The SCVs will die. The Mule was dropped very optimistically mid-fight and will die as well, which was just hubris in action. And now, well, Clem comes all the way back home. Reynor up to 65 drones. Gets a bunch of SCVs. And Clem, not only does he not get much damage done on the other side, he delayed the 4th base. But at what cost? Well, it wasn't a direct correlation, because holding the door open was not a prerequisite to doing this attack. You're not Protoss. You know how to build doors. Allegedly. So, but unfortunately, the Zerglings get in. The 1st and 3rd and 17th rule of StarCraft 2. You can subscribe to my TEDx talk, where I talk about Warren Buffett for the other 15 to 35 rules, depending on the day. Anyways. The Swarm Queens, the Lings. +1 Carapace is done. Nothing yet for Clem, but he's working on 1-1. Swarm Queen's trying to get in on the fun. And, well, man with gun, still pretty strong. And the Siege Tank. So Swarm Queens are armored units. I don't know if we established that. I think we did. I keep forgetting what I've already described and not. You have the patch notes open, right? You can read. Right. That's why more people like than subscribe. You can only subscribe once, Winter. Anyways, Catalyze Morphogenesis. On the way, Baneling, Speed Morph. The tank in the main. A bit optimistic. The Queen, no. They just stare menacingly. They don't have nearly enough range. The anti-air range is, they can barely peer over those noses. Okay, can't lift their head up high enough. Baneling mine. Though, yeah, a bit optimistic in that exact position. Would have been very greedy for Clem not to scan there. But if Reynor had gotten a Baneling mine, I think Clem might have left the game. It is a very tenuous place for Clem right now. Despite the fact he has a slight upgrade advantage, Reynor has going on 5 bases. He's got 87 drones. All he needs to do is hold. The Swarm Queen's on the front line. There's 4 or 5 medevacs with this. Does he have automated retraction? He doesn't. He doesn't have the ability to pick up siege tanks with medevacs, unsieging them in the process. But that is an upgrade on the factory tech lab, giving siege tanks a little bit more utility. Honestly, quite a cool upgrade, and I think we're going to see a lot more usage of as time goes on. But right now, clearly, Clem doing what he can. Reynor's maxed out. He has yet to start a hive. And here he comes from pretty much every side. Hydralisk speed is finishing. He's got 100 Zerglings, 30 Banelings, more Swarm Queens in production. The longer he waits, the closer Clem gets to 2-2, but he wanted to make sure he had the Banes. And a Venn diagram of freedom here. Reinforcements are on the way, but the Liberators, and here comes Reynor from every side. Siege tanks on the high ground. The Marines stuck in the center. He will pick up. He gets out. But the Swarm Queens are obliterated by the Liberators, and we're not done yet. The reinforcements have arrived. +2 weapons and armor just finishing mid-fight. Reynor continuing forward, but the siege tank actually gumming things up. Look at that spread. I can't believe it's not butter. Oh, Clem with a beautiful split, but Reynor mid-fight. Unfortunately, the Baneling mine is just a little bit off-center, and that means the Marines are going to continue forward. Clem continues his efforts. He's going to keep the aggression up. Reynor has +2 carapace. He just started the hive. That is the only saving grace for Clem right now. The army supplies are about even. A single siege tank guns down another Hydra or two. The Banelings have to be careful the angle they come in, because Clem is dangerous to them, as dangerous as they are to the Marines. And Clem trying to move forward. Reynor trying to push him back. That hive's not done. He doesn't have that extra set of tech. Meanwhile, the Banelings rolling in from every side. Clem backing off, picks up at the last moment, and escapes for now. Sidesteps the Spore Crawler. A Liberator sieging up. Got 1 kill, denied some mining. Another Spore zones him out of the main, and the hive tech is done. And Clem will be rebuffed. For now. But not a decisive victory for either side. Time is on Reynor's side for the most part. These rocks in an awkward spot for sure. Will he take him down? He does! The Banelings! And he actually cuts off the army between a rock and a hard place. The Marines will stand their ground. They'll fight and the Zerg will die. Oh, what a fortuitous timing. Dustin Browder would be incredibly proud. I don't even think he targeted him. I think he target fired the Banelings, and the Banelings hit the rocks, and the rocks dropped. And Clem, his chances of losing, well, not as bad as they once were, but it's still an awkward spot for sure. As the hive tech upgrades are just now started. Ancillary carapace for the Hydralisk. No longer Hydra launch. It's combat shield. They get +10 HP, going from 90 to 100. And that's quite a big deal with how many Hydras you build. +3 melee attack and carapace are on the way. An academy is in production. No longer the Ghost Academy, as it has several different upgrades to barracks-related units. Not just ghosts, but nukes were buffed as well. I really hope that Clem knows that, but I kind of doubt it. They now cost half the price, they build twice as fast, and they land about 50% faster, but do significantly less damage, especially to structures. They're more of a zoning tool, which is a bit weird, but you know, if it gets us more nukes... What? Meanwhile, the Hydra's Lings, Banes, rolling in, and that's so much Zerg, but there's still 60 Marines. An awkward angle, to say the least. The Baneling's trying to turn around, he micros back. And Reynor, well, not exactly the ideal. More Baneling mine spotted. Reynor loses so much. He does have that Baneling speed morph, and he may very well need it. No, what? You can't fight that. He's tearing right through it. 100 Zerglings in production. But the Bio Army will not be stopped. You need Banelings. You absolutely need Banelings. What is this? It's a camp. It's every Terran's dream and every Zerg's nightmare. A trickle of Zerglings gunned down by the dozen. Reynor loses 182 Lings to just 36 Marines. It is an unmitigated disaster. Oh no. The Zerganity again. Reynor goes from an overwhelming position to an outright loss. in a minute. Clem handling it perfectly. Reynor, so he did not have the late game. He had the Hydra life upgrade, but he knows better. I think he was very confident in his position, and overconfidence is a not very slow but insidious killer. He didn't have adrenal glands. He didn't rebuild around banelings. Didn't have ultras nor lurkers. He dug too deep and too greedily, and it cost him. Clem, match point. He knows better. The fact he had 100 Zerglings in production. So, I need to stress, one of my favorite changes, and one that truly feels like, why wasn't this a change already? Hatcheries are back to their original spawning time, 10.75 seconds. The OG, what it was for 16 years, minus the last month. Though their max larva that they can produce off the hatch, no injects, is 4, with a max of 10. All hatcheries now have a max of 10. Lair now produces larva every 7 seconds, with a max of 6. And a hive produces every 3.5 with a max of 10. So the hive is essentially an inject in and of itself, which does... Now, Zerg late game, and Zerg in general, has always, I guess, suffered, but been obligated. And there's a reason why we don't see a lot of players like off-racing as Zerg. The mechanical requirement to play Zerg is incredibly high. Arguably even compared to Terran and Protoss, though you can have that argument, and we have for 16 years. But just the sheer amount of things you need to do that don't involve fighting the enemy at all in order to be competitive. Larva inject, creep spread, overlord spread, queen management in general. Now, in the Brood War, that was not necessarily the case with just hatcheries providing larvae, so that was kind of basic. I don't know if in Brood War layers and hives provided. They didn't provide more. I don't know if they built it faster. But this feels like a really cool... I am really looking forward. I've tried it myself at a significantly lower level. We're on the Vespine GG ladder against quite competent players. But 2 or 3 macro hives, it costs 250 total gas for a hive. 100 for the layer, 150 for the hive. Plus the minerals, of course. But usually, if you don't have minerals, you're not going for macro hatches. Okay, that's kind of the point of making them. Is to make things like mass Zergling. Maybe roaches. Usually not hydras, they are too heavy on the gas, but... So... Just generally. So... Using those macro hives potentially. Which we saw Reynor doing to an extent. But... Yeah, you need banelings. He even got the baneling speed morph upgrade. And then... You cannot fight 60, 70 supply. There was nothing Clem had, nor anything in the baseline patch changed to make that better or worse. In fact, Reynor was better off than he would have been on the live patch. His Hydras had more HP. But that was just never going to be a winning fight. So, Clem putting himself in the right place at the right time. And Reynor struggling. 2 games in a row. Unfortunately, Clem not been obligated, I feel, to even think about any of the potential super late game upgrades. At least as of yet. 2 Swarm Queens on the way. The basic queens now pushing their way out, but just trying to make sure he has the basic defense. Cloak for the Banshees. And Reynor. Well, the Swarm Queens still about the same speed as OG queens. He's getting a third one, which is quite an investment. Leaving him... He still has 3 OGs. Wait. Yeah, 3 and 3. The Banshee, quite difficult to deal with. They do have an anti-air attack, but they got to be pretty much right underneath the unit, which is not going to happen with Clem. Like, he's not going to just leave his Banshee underneath or overhead 3 Swarm Queens. Hellions looking for an opportunity, but the Queen's boxing out. When do I get my cool outfit? Lucille, shut up! Shut up! Why do you think you're better than me? I spent 50 minerals on this, Lucille! What happened to your voice? That sounds like it hurts. It does! This is bad long-term option. I don't... Sorry, I am debating a lot of things. The Hellions running by. The Swarm, they decides to commit. A pulls out at the last second, which... Well, the Queen's obviously angry about it. Who wouldn't be? But the Zerglings! Oh, no! It's a disaster. The Hellions running back, but already 7 SCVs dead. Clem flirting with the Queens and neglecting the home front. That's what you get for cheating on your SCVs. And 13 SCVs dead to a Zergling counter? Oh, that's a disaster. He's not done. And, okay, shut the front door, Clem, as they say. A whole bunch more Zerg. 71 drones behind it. Like, what a disaster. He lost all of the Hellions to the Zerglings as well. A couple more SCVs. The Orbital. The tank is just barely in range. The Banshee's coming back. How many drones? 2 drones. To 17. It's a disaster. Clem, I think that borderline leaving the game there. I don't... Now, he still has 3 command centers. He has 1/1 upgrades. Reynor is going for +2 Carapace. And Queen's unable to inject. And the OG Queen snipes off the Banshee. It is a little bit difficult with the Swarm Queens. Well, maybe not as a direct confrontation, but now finally getting the promotion, that final OG Queen. No combat shield, no upgrades means that the Zerg easily able to drive this back. Clem trying to keep the pressure on because he knows Reynor's supply is gonna explode if he doesn't do something. But unfortunately, I don't know if there are any good options now. He has to just try to force a mistake. And that's going to be hard to do when everything you have is already kind of spoken for. He has the Banshees, he has the Medivacs, but there's no other tech and there's no other timings that he can really rely on. So Reynor is very much aware of what he's dealing with. Banshee on the way. Or Banshee doing more damage. And he kills 5 drones over the top. The Queen's on the side. Takes out another one. And another drop to the right flank. Overlord goes down. Reynor bleeding out a bit. As still terrestrially bound, the Swarm Queens are struggling to deal with it. They have as much range as Marines, but they have significantly more gear in the rear, I guess we'll say. As we've already established at great girth in game number 1. And the Marines, much more slim, able to slip between one mineral and another. But wait, there's more. Another medevac heading towards the main, and Clem keeping the pressure on. An infestation pit is completed, but the hive has not begun. Reynor fixing that now. Another double drop in the corner. Medevacs pick up and escape for now. And he's scanning over... Oh, that's so annoying to deal with. But one of these, this whole metro area, not one, but 2. Not 1, not 2, but 3 bases back to back to back. Which is always, honestly, easy to kind of get lost in. Only 2 of the bases are full resources. The one at the back is like a 3/4 base. 1 gas, 6 minerals. The queens, target fire, transfuse in time. Holding on. The Hydras, groovy spines done. Medevac's driven back. And Clem has scraped his way up to 180 supply. Reynor's maxed out and he's starting to bank. Hive is not quite done. And the tank's kind of strung out. Hydra's on every side. +2 weapons die. Well, this is an awkward fight for both sides. The Hydras are really good, and they're incredibly well spread. Like, near 360 degrees around. Reinforcements on the way. He's going to be able to ping cushion the medevacs, as well as some of the siege tanks. Overall, about an even trade, and I think the tie goes to the leader, who's clearly Reynor at this point. The Swarm Queen's coming to patch up some of the Hydras. Transfuses coming through. More tanks on the midfield, but is that enough? It absolutely isn't. And the Marines, Marauders. The supply gap widens yet again as the Hydras, for the most part, enough to deal with all this. Loses another medevac, almost another full one. The tank jammed into the gap. One last shot, but unable to hold. Clem is running out of real estate. He's got the 4th base. He's got 3-3 on the way. But ancillary carapace. Now, Reynor runs the mild risk of once again overextending. Though it is significantly less of one, as he's got a lurker den, adrenal glands. By the time Clem, like, if all of this army just spontaneously combusted somehow, speaking of nukes, but then Clem could not just come across the map. Not with this. And right now, the trades, he's losing SCVs. This is before the Hydras have all their upgrades, getting strung out at the end. In the last 2 minutes, 42 Hydras, 150 Zerglings, 95 Marines, 8 siege tanks. Well, 8 sieged up tanks and 1 who hadn't made it yet. Clem is holding on. But it's tenuous at very generously best. Futile, more realistically. Hopeful, cinematically. Deadly, in general. The Vipers in position, the Lurkers burrow down. The Lurker spines move slower now. Lurkers are a little bit better as a baseline unit, but Lurker range takes longer to upgrade, and there's no speed upgrade. So they take longer to burrow no matter what. So generally a nerf to the Lurker, but a slight buff too when they first come out. Like right now. Lurker range isn't done, but the medevac is taken out. Clem between a rock and a hard place yet again. The Lurkers are closing in. Clem gonna head across the map. Another one. Another one. Harpoons, a siege tank, and a liberator. The Swarm Queens caught out on the field. The Lurkers slicing right through it. And he's on the ramp. Infantry armor level 3. So 3-3 is done. That's the biggest advantage Clem has. Oh, the Lurkers. He's on hold fire. 100%. He unleashes. Honestly, not that much damage to start, but Clem doesn't realize for a moment. Lurkers on the ramp! Just eviscerating every Terran in sight, and some things just collateral damage. The Marines on the other side. Well, no, there's no. Nearly 100 supply lead. The Liberators, he'll eventually deal with these Lurkers, but we have to ask ourselves that question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? The Marines, parasitic bomb, quarantine some medevacs. Somehow these Marines have survived. A single Lurker. He doesn't have a scan. He doesn't have fire suppression. The new engineering bay upgrade replacing building armor and high-sec auto-tracking that repairs your buildings very slowly, but keeps them from burning. I think it's a testament to this patch that Clem has not left the game and he's down 100 supply. That he actually wants to play it out from here at all. That might be the biggest miracle of this patch. Clem playing out a game where he's clearly lost. And let's make that, like, he is very dead right now. The lurkers, but he still has a few Marines in the corner. Yanks in another medevac. He'll keep fighting. Apparently to the last Marine. All right. But why? Why not? Knocks out another hatchery. No, he's dead. I got it. There is no hope. But the death animation can be extended a little bit, because don't worry, by the time this lurker drop gets there, there might be a chance for Clem to turn it around. He forgot Overlord speed. But literally, Karuk is burning right now. Orbitals are burning with SCVs standing by. He's abducting medevacs. There's more lurkers than Marines. But Clem is gonna make him come across the map and kill him. A Marauder drop. And to be honest, it doesn't really feel like Clem is... He knows he's dead, but he's not doing the, like, I hate losing, so I'm just gonna go AFK. No, he's still playing, which is... I'm not used to this at all. Oh, the lurkers get jammed in. The rocks are taken down, but the lurker slice right through. Lurker dropping the main. Yep, that's a lurker. I'm surprised Reynor has not started dancing his Hydralisk yet. But, gonna dive right on top of the plate. There's still a drop! He's gonna kill the hatch! Oh, he got it! GG! And Reynor is on the board. Now, Clem making a critical mistake in letting the Zerglings in his base, and Reynor more than able to take advantage of it. But I just want to real quick an intermission. Say you're playing on the Vespene.gg ladder. All right, with me, or players much better than me. And some who are not. Well, how do you make a game? This is not on the ladder, all right? This is an actively supported patch made by people who play the game. So it's not on the ladder, but instead you go to melee maps, any map, but usually the current map pool. So, and then very simply, create with mod, PT, Patches Versus Mod. Create a lobby. Boom. There you go. You can also play against AI. The AI is actually pretty competent. It doesn't really use the new stuff, but again, the AI was designed for the 12-worker start, so Elite AI does give me a bit of a challenge. And I played this game a bit, so it works just fine on Patches Mod if you either want to warm up or anything like that. So that's how you get into a game. But let's get into the next one. Jimmy, how long does it take to rainfall? A Reynor dragging one back. Still, well, I would say it looked a little dicey, but then it looked very slicey. As you want a piece of me, boy, turned into a lot of pieces of meat, boy. Anyways, game 4, rainfall. Climb up 2-1. As Reynor steals one back, but see what he's got in store. Honestly, I don't want to read into it too much, but I have never seen Clem do that in a while. The only times I've ever seen Clem play when he's so clearly lost, I've seen Clem leave when he's not clearly lost, but the only times I've seen him stay in the game are when he's clearly frustrated. But he was still playing it out, having fun with it. Like, he knew. But it wasn't like an AFK in the corner situation. So I'm gonna read. You know what? Fine, I'll read into it. Clem likes it. He doesn't mind playing. He's not. can be a frustrating time right now. If you haven't yet watched Lambo, one of the top tier Zerg players who's also incredibly smart and articulate, talk about the new patch, the live patch from Blizzard, and the sort of struggles we've had. Now, if you watch my videos, or my commentary, my streams, I said, I like the idea of the 8-worker start. I like the idea of change. I'm not against it. But my concern is something will change things, and then, how do I put this mildly? Fuck off for 6 months without any communication. And to be fair, it's only been 1 month without communication so far. And some might argue there's no communication at all. But personally, I'm kind of done with it. Because this is the Blizzard patch notes. This is a hot fix. Command center reduced to 300 minerals. Look at that explanation. That's the multi-billion-dollar company patch. Here's your Patches Versus Mod. It's, even if, and there's some rumblings, I will say that apparently, according to the Koreans who have a non-zero amount of information, unlike pretty much all of us, including me, who I think a pretty decent-sized audience in the English-speaking SC2 community. Few people watch the videos. Few people like and subscribe, at least. I have no idea. I don't know who the intern is, if it's actually real, if it's a meme. I don't know if it's AI generated. I don't think so. I think AI could do a lot better. And I hate AI for most things. But, well, not when it was Alpha Star, but it was fun then. Anyways, but I have no trust, and we've been burned now twice. The Balance Council was not perfect. In the Balance Council, if you watch Lambo's video, which maybe we'll put in the link, I don't know. You just search Lambo SC2 on YouTube. And he explains at length both the pro player perspective and the general perspective. And I agree with all of it. And I honestly don't have that pro player perspective. But the summary is most pro players have stopped playing. At least, especially the ones who are not at the very top. Players have stopped practicing. Before, wait, you might play, well, didn't they be, no. There's been, even if there aren't that many less overall players, the activity of players at the top of the ladder, the people who this kind of all relies on, is off a cliff. Like, well over half. There is not a single, according to Lambo, who's talked to over 10, probably at least 20, his words, of like the top 30 or 40 players. Not a single one has positive things to say about the 8-worker patch. Whether they don't like the specific changes, or they don't think, or they just don't like the situation with Blizzard. As in, we don't know what the situation is because they don't say anything. Not a single player actually thinks it was a good thing. Plenty of people, like myself, are like, I don't hate change. Like, I don't mind testing things out. But you can't come in, like, break a bunch of stuff, and then in 6 months, come in and break more stuff and call it, look, at least it's change. For the overwhelming majority of people who already don't play and still don't, but at least it is cool for clickbait titles for a week. So, anyways, my point being, the Vespine.gg ladder. If you have any interest in playing StarCraft 2 and don't know how you feel about the new patch, we need enough people to, and it's the most momentum I've seen any mod get. SC Evo has been fun. They also have a ladder system that's a little less streamlined. And let's be honest, it's a little harder to get into. But this is SC2, but with a bunch of fun stuff attached. Is it balanced? I mean, it's close enough so far from what I've seen, but... And if we get 75 people on the ladder, by the time I do another video, I'll do a Protoss game. Clem played Protoss against Terran in this tournament, and he's in the finals. So do the math on that. Okay, I was going to cast it anyways, but it'd be cool if we get at least a few dozen more people out of all this advertising. But now, finally, a unit may die. Maybe even 2 or 10, as the Swarm Queen's helping the Zerglings to deal with the Hellions. He's going Battle Mech again. And the Hellions just incinerating all the Zerglings, but the Swarm Queens and the Zerglings should be enough. Reynor at 64 drones, only loses a couple. Banshee, Hyper She's on the way. Banshee Speed. And Magfield Accelerator. So the most mobile possible mech composition. We've got Hellions, Cyclones, and Speed Banshees. And none of this is easy to deal with for Zerg, especially on early layer tech. But if you have a good enough economy, you can just overwhelm it with sheer units. Reynor has not lost 15 drones like he did in game number 1. And also the map is significantly less difficult to deal with. So he has a much greater shot, I think. But it's still a very difficult composition to quite literally wrap your lings around. More factories on the way. The Swarm Queen zoning out. Magfield not quite done. Infernal Pre-Igniter is. Locks onto one of the queens. Oh, but the Zerglings! Blue Flame really combusting dozens upon dozens of Zerglings, but he will eventually kill it. The Swarm Queen, a critical part of all this. I don't know if he actually kills this without 1 or 2 of them. Loses 49 Zerglings, but 3 Cyclones and 9 Hellions, almost certainly worth it. The Speed Banshees. So, Banshees on the Fusion Core, I think it requires a Fusion Core, can get the AoE damage upgrade from the campaign. Shockwave Missiles. Which is cool. It's a lot of fun to use. It's actually quite good against Hydras. But they're still incredibly fragile. They kind of suffer from the Void Ray issue of, by the time you get all these late game tech upgrades, usually either you've already done enough damage and you could build almost whatever you want, or they've countered it and you got to move on. So, Clem not reaching for that extra. I would love to see some Sky Terran compositions with the Raven repair drones. But I just don't think, especially since players don't seem to remember they can mine gas with mules. Clem, you need more gas. Maybe he did. It's hard to tell at a glance, but it doesn't. You don't get magically more gas. You just mine out faster. To be clear, no, we're back to 2250 on the gas cusps. So, Mass Hydra just poking around the edges. Very notably, no meaningful economic damage so far. I'm really trying to keep the pressure on. No Baneling Speed Morph. The Mass Banshee in the main base. Still 5 Banshees, but all of them bruised in some way or another. The Zerglings get the full wraparound. And there we go. A Fusion Core is on the way. But Reynor is nearly maxed out. Does he have an infestation pit? No. He's about to attack. He is all in effectively on Hive Tech. He does not want to let this go to a later game, because it only gets harder and harder to deal with a more efficient mech composition. Hurricane engines for Cyclone Speed about to complete. The army kind of strung out here. There's not that many Hellions. Where are the Banshees? Off to the right side. The Hydra's moving in. There's only 1 Overseer right now, which could be an issue. Meanwhile, the Cyclone's backing off. Reinforcements on the way. Zerglings around the back. And there's only so much space to retreat to. He lifts the orbital to create a little bit more. The Banshee's mostly knocked out of the sky. He pin cushions the Cyclones, and Clem is done. GG. Reynor rolls through. And proves that the battle mech is not the be-all, end-all. But instead, you need to get a little bit more done than that. Pretty victory more one-sided than a Mobius strip, but a solid mid-game victory for Reynor. And just like that, we're all tied up. And that's the difference. Like, well, it's good to see Reynor adapted, but also kind of a difference in the timing. And I'd love to say, well, the Swarm Queens are the only real factor. Thing is, every little bit of this is part of the Patches patch. Which again, bestbean.gg. Very cool site. And the people who are running it are Grandmaster StarCraft 2 players who wanted to make something. Well, originally it was like a StarCraft 2 coaching / analysis, kind of like SC2 replay stats. But they've managed to create a quite workable ladder or ladder system for Patches Mod and other things. And the more people that participate, yeah, I keep going on about it. I know. You might only have an hour a day. You've got responsibilities. You get tired. Just put on a winter video to fall asleep. Well, wake up! I'm sorry. I apologize. And, but still, I am once again asking to consider maybe one last time, one last dance, one last opportunity, because I don't know what BlizzCon will bring, but I'm looking forward to StarCraft 3, the extraction shooter, now on iPhone and Google Play. All the rumblings are, well, again, please, I desperately beseech you, do not expect any art. And even if there is RTS news, I guarantee you. Well, one, there are two options. One, there's not a single person left at Blizzard who has any technical knowledge about StarCraft 2. Or their RTS in general, past, like, basic, like, functionality on how to do a poor update. Option two, there is, and they're not using it. Both are bad. StarCraft 2, Grant was right. StarCraft 2 will rule forever. All right, 3, we desperately want. PlanetSide, Destiny, Helldivers. Well, maybe not that one. Titanfall, that's what I was thinking of. StarCraft, Half-Life. I don't think we'll get there. But that's why we leave it to the players. And honestly, there was nothing new has changed. To be very clear. We could have been doing this for the last 10 years, almost. I think there were some big... actually, no. To be fair, the team before they moved on, after Blizzard was clearly no longer supporting StarCraft 2 as actively, the big 5.0 update to the editor was a huge update in terms of functionality. I don't know how much is used in these mods, these custom games, but made the already incredibly strong StarCraft 2 editor even better. So, probably any point since then, this could have happened. It's just... between the questionable business and general practices of the Blizzard patches and the interest in general, finally there's some momentum. I've always said we needed to have some sort of grassroots tournament support. It's just, between Blizzard and EWC, there was never really a strong motivation for players to play it competitively. Players like Clem and Reynor. But now this tournament, this patch, has a $5,000 tournament circuit, and of course you can contribute in the description. Jimmy, there's a direct to Patches tournament contribution if you do want to add to the prize pool of either the weekly tournament or the major tournament circuit. So. But a single Swarm Queen, now side by side. It seems like Swarm Queen's a staple. Reynor has... it seems like they fill a very important role. And they do it so solidly. You know that's right. Dummy thick. Brenda, don't... it's not a compliment. It is now! Look at your mother! You have a widescreen monitor? I don't... Sorry. The fact he's building Swarm Queens every game as basic early defense clearly shows that there was a role that they could fill in the game. And I think they're doing so, like the fact that they're not very good against air. They're intentionally poor at some of the things the original Queen. Oh my god. Playing footsies here. Wait. And then the Hellions run in. Oh no. Oh, but wait! They're trapped in. What a mess. 9 drones dead, though. Reynor taking significant damage from the Hellions while busy playing will they, won't they with the Liberator. It's gonna be Bio. He's already landed the third. Reynor is going for mass roaches. Is he gonna do a Swarm Queen push? So we haven't seen almost any. So here's the issue. Is Clem and Reynor, and well, Beyond and Lambo also participate. The thing is, Clem and Reynor, especially Clem, are just so good. They can ignore some of these upgrades that might be better, but no one else survived long enough to make some of the changes. It doesn't make like a new cheese amazing in most matchups. There's not. Protoss actually has a few, but we'll wait till the next series where Clem plays Protoss. Probably. That'll probably be the one. To explain those. But in Zerg versus Terran, it's just smoothing out some of the rough points, evening out the late game, and generally giving everyone more options for... And that's how you, in my humble and modest opinion, I'm known for it, all right? Not to... My humble and modest opinion, you give strategic variety by giving strategic variety, not by taking away people's money and say, go make some more. By cutting the worker start. Which... Go watch Lambo's video. The pros explain. Almost no pros, if not no pros, think it has created any more variety and done anything more than make the early game more awkward and take longer. It's just, it has not succeeded at that. It has certainly shaken it up. But at the end of the day, it doesn't actually change the unit compositions much of the time you end up with. Because very simply, and now so many... Anyways, enough about that. The Marines dropping about. Zergling and Roach Speed on the way. I didn't realize Reynor was working off of a gasless start. Or, I guess, at least not having link speed. Focused on the Roaches. It's got Hydras in production. It's just pure Bio out of Clem. Who's still... He's barely touched any of the late game upgrades. I don't think we've seen the rapid deployment, the Caduceus reactor, the accelerated training. Trying to think back when... And I mean, if it works... And the only one that might be relevant at this stage of the game is the automated retraction for siege tanks, with the ability to pick them up while sieged into medevacs, which reverts them into tank mode, but allows you to reposition them and save them from being in quite so terrible locations, which I think is a good middle ground. Wow. The base is quite close together. Reynor took his fourth directly towards... And when you have a Roach Hydra composition, getting up close and personal is sometimes necessary. 182 supply for Reynor, but it is in a lot of 2 supply Roaches. A few Roaches counterattacking. He's got 15 more workers as well. Clem... He's got 2-2 on the way, but it's still pretty far off. Going for the full surround, the Roaches on the high ground. There's no infestors. Just finished +1 missile attack. 1-1 upgrades for either side, but the siege tanks slamming into the Roaches. The Bio holding the line, trying to save some of the tanks. The Queen, Swarm Queens, transfusing through, helping Reynor push, but the tug of war right on the edge of the creep. There's no concussive grenades. Obliterates yet another Swarm Queen. He ate a drone! He ate a drone to consume for transfuse! Sacrificing his economy, so that way he might be able to maintain his economy. Does it show that Reynor killed 2 drones? Indeed. Consumed for the greater good. Blood for the blood god! Skulls! For the skull throne. There's a lot of blood in that trench. A lot of it's Zerg. But Reynor, with some Hydras and Lings now, much better for flanking against tanks. Backing up, concussive grenades, finishing. And, well, the Hydras from each side. The concave is amazing, and the Hydra lane doing a lot better. Especially now that Clem invested more heavily in Marauders to deal with the Roaches. And even though the Hydras didn't have the upgrades, the siege tanks, well, the choke point is rough. Mass production here from Clem. Those are barracks 6, 7, and 8. Ancillary Carapace, 3 Vipers. But Clem is pushed back, and he's still building more of the same. He just started his 3-3, so he's not too close to having that late game advantage. And if a few Vipers come out with enough energy for Abduct or even Blinding Cloud, well, that could be disaster. Ancillary Carapace is a very long upgrade, but he will get there eventually. That extra 10 HP on Hydras has made the difference in pretty much every game he's gotten it so far. Those siege tank, there's new animations on the siege tank shots as well. The basic siege tank is still the same in siege mode. It's just a new animation because it looks cool. And I think it's easier to pick out the actual tank shots. Building a bunker. Slightly less build time. David Kim will be proud. The Vipers with just enough energy for Abduct. He's going to try to break it. +2 missile attacks. Finishing. He's not going to wait for the Carapace. He's going to try to break through. The Hydras from every side. Blinding Cloud pushes him forward. The Marines at melee range affix bayonets. But unfortunately, the Hydras are too much. And he's retreating into the mass medevac. And that's so much of his army supply. Yanks the tank into the fray. And now it's just Marines. Even upgrades. 100 HP Hydralisks. And Clem, he fell back to the most basic and most well-explored of Terran strategies. Marines, tanks, and medevacs. And now he's going to have to fall back even further. He doesn't have the supply. He doesn't have the army. The new age of Hydras is upon us. And Clem, 3 games in a row, just not up to the task. In this one, well, I think it was a lot of both players kind of exploring whether or not their strategies would actually stack up well. And Reynor stacks up well enough again. Another victory for Reynor. He's chosen to play in very few tournaments lately. But when he does, he makes it interesting. Reynor battles back. And he wins the finals. Clem still definitely relying on his, oh, by the way, he scanned the main is why. He scanned the main, saw a Lurker Den upgrading before he tapped out. It wasn't just a rage quit. It was a GG scan. Because if it was just Hydraling on layer tech, then, well, he probably saw the HP, but... So, one more time. Well, Vespine.gg, now that we have a bit of time. There is a companion app. I know, application. I'm old now, though. Where you can play on the ladder. You can join the Patches Discord. There are basic directions. Just press Find Match. And I'll be honest, probably not too many people playing it. Well, let's just say Vampire Hours right now, obviously. But, and indeed, there is even a prize pool for the top players on the ladder at the end of the season. And the top Diamond and Platinum players, which I think is based on your normal rank. But we need you, Platinum and Diamond players, and everyone below, but this is your opportunity. We'll be organizing some nights where people are queuing up, because, you know, more of a community thing. Do you remember StarCraft 2 in 2010? You remember before chat channels? How did we even communicate? Poorly, I think. TeamSpeak? What year is it? Anyways, I'm that old. So, be awesome to check it out if you got the means, motivation. But otherwise, thank you for watching. And just tuning in for these patch matches very much encourages me to keep showing them off. And I think it's a incredible initiative. And it's very well done. It's very well executed. Like, there's animations for all the upgrades. Not just the icons, but the actual in-game stuff. All has animations in some fashion, the stuff that's relevant. And especially when I show off Protoss very soon, you're going to see a lot of cool stuff. And not necessarily strong or weak, but a lot of really cool new animations. From Stalker Blink Recharge to Flame Colossi to Mothership Pylons. Motherships have a power field. It's not as OP as it sounds, all right? There's other... Anyways. But thank you for watching. Thank you to Patches for the mod. Congratulations to Reynor yet again. And I hope I made your day at least a little bit better. Make sure to check out all the links and all that. And if you got the means of motivation, Patreon. YouTube membership. Thank you to our top tier patron YouTube members. Big Jakey Decro, Devin Door, Magwin, Mario P. Sasquatch. Glad y'all still enjoy. And make sure to check out this video. Jimmy picked it out just for you. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.